Good morning, folks, and happy Wednesday to you. And I hope and pray that as you get moving this day, that you're expecting God's blessings, that you're expecting His grace, His mercy, all those wonderful things that God gives us, no matter what may be going on in your life today. Christian, you know that you have the victory. And because of that, you can live that victory. You know, we've been preaching the sermon series on Sundays about victory. And we've been doing that ever since Easter. Y'all know what I call it, the ultimate victory. And then, of course, all of our sermons on victory have stemmed from that ultimate victory. And the whole intent, Christian, is so that we will live in that victory. How often do we trudge through our day acting like the whole world is falling down around us just due to the circumstances of life? And you know, I'm not taking away from any of the things that happen in life. I know that things happen in life. I know that difficulties come. I know that illness comes. I know that grief comes. I'm not downplaying any of that. What I am saying, Christian, is that we have victory over it, so we can live like we've got victory over it. And then what happens at that point? Our witness is visible to others. Somebody can look at us and say, man, that person is going through such a valley right now, but they're living like they're victorious. You see what I mean right there, Christian? When we live like we're victorious, and we are, by the way, then that's going to show. And the Holy Spirit is going to speak to somebody around us. And prayerfully, they will achieve that victory as well. So, Christian, live like you have the victory, because you do. I want to remind you, Oak Level, tonight is prayer and Bible study at 6 p.m. So come on out and be with us as we continue in our journey through 1 John. And it's a wonderful book. It's got wonderful lessons in it. So don't you miss that blessing. You come and be a part of that as we take our concerns to the throne of grace, and as we look to the book of 1 John and glean the lessons that God has for us. You don't want to miss that. So come and be with us, 6 p.m. for prayer and Bible study. I'm going to read to you today from the book of James. And honestly, the verse that was on my Bible app this morning, it's not the one that I'm going to read. It's in the book of James in chapter number 4. But as I read this in detail and read the verses that precede it, I'm going to read the verses that precede it because they really spoke. James chapter number 4 and verse number 13. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city, spend a year there, buy and sell, and make a profit. Verse 14. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. James is, first of all, telling us that we don't know what the next day brings. We don't know what the next minute brings. Christian, I think we all have experienced that. We don't know what tomorrow holds. And James is kind of admonishing to start with, because so many of us, and in context, so many in his day, as you can see, there's been no change between Bible times and contemporary times. But James is saying, listen up, those of you that say, well, tomorrow I'm going to do this, and tomorrow I'm going to do that. I put everything in my planner about what's going to happen during the week. But I don't do that because I know it's absolutely going to happen. I do that because that's what my plan is. But we don't know what tomorrow may bring. And James tells us right here, verse 14, I mentioned it just a minute ago, I'll read it again. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Christian, James is telling us here that we've got no business affirming or being authoritative on what we're going to do tomorrow. But he doesn't end there. Thank God for that. Verse number 15, he says, instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that. We should always be concerned with what God wills us to do. Years ago, I had somebody kind of give me a hard time when I made a request for prayer that something that I wanted to happen would happen. And he admonished me, and he said, you should be praying for God's will. And you know what? He was right on that vein. We should be praying for God's will. But understand, Christian, God doesn't have anything wrong with us requesting what we want. But we need to understand that if it's His will, He'll provide it. If it's not His will, He'll provide something better. But when we come to this idea of saying, well, I'm going to do this tomorrow and that tomorrow and everything's going to happen and this is going to be wonderful, we need to take a minute and say, wait a second. If God wills, I'll do this. If God wills, this will happen. Now, I said just a minute ago, prayer and Bible study is going to happen tonight at 6 p.m. That's our calendar. That's our plan. But we should remember that God's will needs to come first. Prayerfully, it is God's will that we gather and pray to Him and study the Bible. But think about everything else that you consider. And remember to think that if God wills it, this is what I'll do. My granddaddy always used to say that. He always used to say, Lord willing, I'll do this. Or Lord willing, this will happen. May we all have that same attitude. And I hope and pray this gives you some encouragement today as we go through our day, living the victory and anticipating God's will for our lives. Remember to be with us tonight at 6 p.m., God willing, as we gather for prayer and Bible study. Love you, folks, and I'll talk to you a little bit later. God bless you.